Hare Krishna, Danvat Pranam. Om Ajnantimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome back to the Bhagavad Gita study group. Thank you all for joining. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, last week we started chapter 5. We completed the first 7 verses. So we saw that in spite of Krishna's very clear instructions, Arjun still was confused, right? Arjun still wanted to know, Ki Krishna, what is better? Karma Yoga, the path of action, or Karma Sannyas, where I give up all action. Krishna is not, saying, Bhai, kitni baar main wahi samjhaun? He's patiently responding. And he says ki both paths, Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyas, both these paths will lead you to liberation, will lead you to God realization. But in your current situation, Arjun, Karma Yoga is superior. And if you actually consider the two, both of them are the same. There is no difference between Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyas. Because in Karma Sannyas, you have to completely detach yourself from the material world. But only detaching never helps. When you detach from somewhere, if you give up all karma, you need to still attach yourself somewhere. Right? That attaching to the Supreme is Karma Yoga. So what Krishna essentially has told us is, Karma Yoga is better. Do karma, but do it without any selfish motives. And that way, you will be perfected. You will get liberation. The mind gets purified every time we do selfless action. So Krishna says, ki don't become a sannyasi just because you're lazy or you're ignorant or you can't find a job anywhere else. Right? Or corona hua, I don't have a job, so I'm a sannyasi. That does not work. A true sannyasi is a person who does not have attachment or aversion to anything at all. Okay, it is not just physical renunciation, it is renunciation of everything from the mind. So the biggest thing you renounce is your desires and your ego. Right? Giving up your ego is actually karma sannyas. And then Krishna told us how a karma yogi should be. So a karma yogi, I think that's the 7th verse in the chapter. Krishna clearly tells us all you have to do to become a karma yogi is be yoga yukta. Whatever action you're doing, be connected with God in devotion. Vishuddha Atma. Make sure that your Atma is getting purified. Vishuddha, very, very purified Atma. Vijitatma. You have controlled your mind. And Jita Indriya. You've controlled your senses. Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. You're dear to everyone and everyone is dear to you. If you slowly develop these characteristics, then you will become a true karma yogi. Right? A karma yogi thinks of himself as part of the entire universe, which is one family. Right? We had done that, right? Ayam nija paroveti ganana laghu chetasam. If you have chota sa chetana, if you're a small-minded person, then you tend to think this is mine, this is his. But udara charitanam tu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. A person who is udar charitrawala, who's very, very generous, who's large-hearted, he thinks that this entire world is my family. Vasudhaiva kutumbakam. And because he thinks like that, what he believes is ki Krishna is the root. Right? Consider the universe as a tree. Krishna is the root. And everybody that I meet is a leaf, a branch, a flower, a fruit of that same tree. So what does this karma yogi do? He simply waters that tree and he knows that all the leaves and branches and fruits will benefit from it. Right? So Krishna says this person who is a true karma yogi is loved by everybody because he works with compassion. Okay? We'll move ahead today. We'll do verses 8 and 9 together. Please repeat after me. Please unmute and repeat. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavid pashyan shrunvan sprushan jigran ashnan gachan swapan shwasan pralapan visrujan grunnan unmishan nimishan napi indriyan indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan.
In the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them.
Perfect. See, when you're driving a car, right? You know there are 1,000 mechanisms in the car that actually run so that the car can move along, correct? I am simply a driver. I know कि वहाँ पे combustion हो रहा है, बहुत सारे cylinders में something is happening, there are spark plugs and there is, there are pistons and there's a battery, right? I know that there are so many systems in the car, right? There's a cooling system, there's an exhaust system, whatever. But when I drive the car, do I consciously think of all these components? I don't, right? Do I think that I am ensuring that the cooling system is working? I am ensuring that the exhaust system is working? No. I'm disconnected with everything that is happening. I'm completely aloof. In the same way, our body has so many systems, right? The eyes can see. Do I actually think of my optic nerve and the connection with the brain and stuff like that? I don't, right? So when I start realizing that I, the soul, I am aloof from everything that's happening in my body. I am not the doer. It's all just happening on its own. When I start to understand that I'm hearing, I'm seeing, I'm touching, I'm smelling, right? But all of this is not happening because I am doing something exclusively for it to happen, right? It's all just happening. These are material senses and they are connecting with the material objects. So externally, I engage in all actions, but I realize that I am not doing anything specific for them to be happening. I am not the doer, right? So that is simply how a karma yogi thinks even with other things. Suppose he goes to work and accomplishes great tasks. He knows that I am just doing my duty. जो रिजल्ट आना है वो अपने आप आ गया, right? I am simply an instrument in the hands of God. Okay, so this complicated verses, you don't need to know the words, are just for all the different actions like pashyan, to see, shrunvan, to hear. Okay, so verses 8 and 9 is simply telling us that all these actions are happening by themselves. I am not specifically working hard to enable all of this. Okay. The consciousness that we need is actually explained in verse 10, which is an important verse. Okay? So please let's do verse 10 together. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyate na sapapena padmapatram ivambasa.
One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results or unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by the sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water.
Such a beautiful verse, and this is something that we need to remember as another tattva in our lives. Brahman yadhyaya karmani. All your karma you dedicate to whom? To Brahman, to God. Okay? Sangam tyaktva, giving up all attachment. That is how we do work. We dedicate all our actions to Brahman and we give up all attachment. Lipyate na sa papena. If we do that, we will never be touched by pap, just as Padma Patram Ivambasa. A lotus leaf is in water and it is still untouched by water. Right? A lotus flower grows from the mud. Right? It grows from the bottom of the lake, but it rises above the water and it blossoms towards the sun. Right? The lotus flower is used in a lot of scriptural texts as an example of something that is born in dirt but keeps rising up and retains its purity. So lotus is considered extremely spiritual because all of us can keep saying that our circumstances are so bad. But what we need to do is rise above our circumstances. You could be in absolute garbage, but God has given us the ability to grow out of that garbage, face the sun, and not be touched by that garbage again. Right? The beauty of that lotus leaf is that it is born in water, it is growing in water, the water sustains it, and yet that leaf does not let the water to wet it. Right? So Krishna is telling us, just as that lotus leaf floats on the surface of the lake and does not get wet by the water, similarly a karma yogi, he performs all kinds of activities, but he does not get touched by sin. Why? Because his consciousness is always facing the divine. Just as the lotus leaf is always facing the sun and is therefore able to rise up. So this karma yogi may be in this bhavasagar, in this material world, but yet he rises up, faces God, and therefore he is untouched by sin. Are we clear? This is a very, very important verse. Lipyate na sa papena padma patram ivambhasa. This person will not be touched by sin, just as a lotus leaf is untouched by water. Okay, verse 11 please. Kayena manasa buddhya kevaler indriyerapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye.
The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification.
Such a nice verse. Please remember, the concept of Karma Yoga is so important that Krishna spent the entire 3rd chapter explaining it and now the entire 5th chapter. So while we think that the concept is so simple, Kaam karo, Bhagwan ko attach raho, God himself knows that this is not easy, and therefore so much of the Bhagavad Gita is dedicated to repeating this concept. Here Krishna is saying, Kayena manasa buddhya. Kaya is our body, man, buddhi and indriya. With these 4 things, a karma yogi does his work. But why is he doing this work? For the pleasure of God and for the purpose of Atma Shuddhaye. What he wants to do is, he wants to purify his Atma. Right? Please remember, we continue doing our work so that we continue to purify ourselves. We can't be so contaminated and go back to God. We need to be purified, and Karma Yoga is the best way to purify ourselves. Right? Please remember, God does not need anything from us. He is perfect. He is the Supreme Lord of everything. He is complete in himself. Right? What can somebody like you and me offer to God? But what we can offer to him is a purified consciousness. When we go back to him, if we go back pure, that's probably the greatest gift that we can give him. Right? Yamunacharya, a very great scholar, he says, Ki Vishnu Bhagwan Ji, you are the husband of Lakshmi, who's the goddess of fortune. So when I was in ignorance, I used to think I can give you so many things. Every time I go to the temple, I put something in the dan peti. Janmashtami comes, I write out a big check. So when I was in ignorance, I used to think that I give you so much. But now that I've gained a little bit of knowledge, I realize that everything is yours. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. So what is there that I can offer you? Nothing. Right? Absolutely everything belongs to you. But Yamunacharya says, there is one thing that I and I alone can offer to you. Right? Only I can do that particular thing. Nobody else can do it for me. And that is purifying my heart, my mind, my Atma. Atma Shuddhaye. And this, when I purify, I'd be very, very happy to offer to God. And therefore, when we get into bhakti, our aim should be our purification. Right? Our aim should be, I chant mantra so that I can purify my mind. I do service so that I can purify my senses. I read scripture so that I can purify my buddhi. Right? And with this purified man, buddhi, ahankar, I want to go back to God. Right? This is the biggest thing that we can give God. In fact, in the Ramayana, right? Ramji sees once that Sugriv is a little frightened before the battle. So he goes and says, Sugriv, kya hua? Sugriv says, nahi, Lanka, Ravan, itne bade log, you really think aap, Bandar, you really think we'll be able to win this war? So Ramji says, Sugriv, if I simply bend the little finger of my left hand, right, all the demons in the world will be vanquished. Right? ये तो क्या सिर्फ रावण और कुंभकर्ण है. But all the demons in all the worlds will die if I simply bend the little finger on my left hand. So Sugriv says, then if it's so easy, then why are you not doing it? Why are you collecting this army of monkeys and bears? So Krishna says, so that I give them an opportunity, Ramji says, so that I give them an opportunity to engage in my service. Because by engaging in my service, they will all become purified and they will all go back to Godhead. Right? So Krishna alone could have wiped out the Kauravas. Right? He could have just looked at the Kauravas and they all would have been vanquished. But Krishna wanted Arjun, his bhakta and his sakha, right, his devotee and his friend, to be glorified. He wanted Arjun and his brothers to get all the credit. And therefore, he engages as a menial servant, as a Parthasarthi. And he ensures that Arjun gets all the credit. Please remember, if you actually think of God's Golok Vrindavan, right, I think I've said this even before, Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vruksham lakshavrateshu surabhira vipalayantam Lakshmi sahastra shata sambhrama sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So if you think of God's abode, right, Chintamani prakara, alag types of Chintamani is what that Golok Vrindavan is made up of. Chintamani matlab spiritual gems, right? God's abode is made of spiritual gems and it is full of kalpa vruksha, trees that grant all your wishes. You can stand under that tree and say, give me mangoes, you get mangoes. Give me, diamonds, you get diamonds. Give me a fancy car, you get a fancy car. And in that abode, Lakshmi Sahastra Shata, hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis are serving the Lord. So in that situation, in a place made of Chintamani, a place full of Kalpa Vriksha, a place where Lakshmi is serving Lord Narayan, you really think there is anything that we can give him? No, right? But love and devotion. We can give Lord a lot of our love and our complete devotion. Our hearts are so contaminated that what we can do is we can purify our hearts and offer them to him. Right? So it's very, very important that our spiritual journey helps us to purify ourselves. In fact, every time there is an unfavorable circumstance, somebody is not nice to you, somebody is rude, somebody is mean, right? Somebody is being critical, be glad. Because you're on the spiritual path, you will learn that you have to tolerate. And the more you tolerate, the more your heart gets purified. वो स्कूल में कबीर जी का दोहा था ना, निंदक नियरे राखिए. Does anyone remember that? निंदक नियरे राखिए, आंगन कुटी छबाए. वाह, superb, right? निंदक नियरे राखिए. कबीर himself tells us, जो निंदक है, जो critics है, उनको एकदम नजदीक रखिए. नियरे राखिए, आंगन कुटी छबाए. In fact, in your आंगन, right, in the place where you live, you should always have one critic. Why? बिना साबुन पानी के, without any sabun, without any पानी, निर्मल करे सुभाए. They cleanse your nature day in and day out. वो तुमको इतना क्रिटिसाइज करेंगे, इतनी तुम्हारी खामियां निकालेंगे. They will point out so many of your faults that they will actually be the easiest way for you to realize all your faults and purify yourselves. So if you want to quickly cleanse your heart, then you should have the company of a critic. When you can tolerate all the hostile, the mean words that a critic speaks, then your heart will be cleansed. You don't need any sabun pani, right? So for all of us going forward, when those beautiful family members criticize us, we should internally be very grateful to them. In one of the previous classes, one of the girls said, yeah, that's exactly why we get married. है ना, निंदक नियरे राखिए, right? So all your faults are in your face, and then purification becomes simpler, right? So we should look at adverse circumstances as opportunities that God sends so that we can progress. धीरे धीरे we have to try and treat success and failure the same. We have to say कि मैं भगवान के लिए अपने आप को शुद्ध कर रही हूँ. Okay, once we do that, then we will be fit to be candidates on the path of spiritual realization. Okay, verse 12 please. Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva shantimapnoti naishtikim ayuktah kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate.
The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of full activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled.
Okay, very simple verse, again very profound. Yukta karma phala tyaktva. When a person is yukta, means engaged in devotional service, what does he do? Karma phalam tyaktva. He gives up karma phal. Correct? As a result of that, what he gets is shantim apnoti neshtikim. He gets shanti, and it is neshtik. Very important, very beautiful word. Normally everything in our life is kshanik. Comes for a little while and goes away. I feel peaceful for a bit and then again I'm disturbed. I feel happy for a bit, again I'm disturbed. But here Krishna says he will get shantim neshtikim, everlasting. But if he is ayukta, if he is not engaged in devotional service, if he is kamakarena, always full of kamanai, full of desires, then phale sakto nibadhyate. The karma phal entangles him completely. So what Krishna is saying is essentially, let's say there is the same job being done by two different people. Same karma, one person can get completely bound up and the other person can be completely free from karma bandhan. How? If you're unattached and unmotivated by the fruits of your work. Karma phal ki jab ichha nahi hoti hai, then you're liberated. But if you are very attached to karma phal, if you're obsessed कि मैंने ये काम किया तो उसका मुझे रिजल्ट आना चाहिए, then you get stuck in karma bandhan. Right? Detachment means whatever I do for Krishna, and also the understanding that whatever I do is possible only because Krishna enables this. When I have that understanding, Shantim apnoti naishtikim, I will enjoy everlasting peace. Right? So the karma yogis, they are engaged in karma without attachment. They have no desire for rewards of their work. They want to constantly just be connected with Krishna and not care about the result. They will give their 100% to doing diligent work, but they will not get stuck in karma bandhan. They get shantim apnoti naishtikim. But if we are ayukta, not united with God, then I want wealth, I want fame, I want power. All these cravings, right? I want them for myself. And then I will always be stuck in the cycle of janma mrityu jara vyadhi. Ayuktah kamakarena phale sakto nibadyate. Phal ki asakti mein I will get tied up. Right? So Krishna is concluding this series of verses on how to act in Karma Yoga by giving us complete clarity कि perform action without attachment and that will lead you to liberation. Perform action with attachment, it will lead you to bondage. So it is not the work, it is your consciousness that binds you or liberates you. Are we clear? Right? Go through these verses, spend a couple of minutes looking at these verses, because then we will see how we can be doing all kinds of actions and yet be the non-doer. Okay? We finished till 12, right? Okay. The next section is very, very interesting. Anyone has any questions so far? No? Completely clear? Okay. Now, as the soul, we said that the soul is not doing anything. Correct? Whatever is happening, whether I'm seeing, I'm hearing, my eyes are opening, closing, all of this is happening on its own. Now we will see that the super soul says that I'm also not making you do anything. Prakriti is also not responsible for anything. So if action is actually taking place, then how does action really happen? Okay, let's look at verse 13. Sarva karmani manasa Sanyasyaste sukham vashi Navadvare pure dehi Naiva kuryan nakarayan.
When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing deed to be done.
So Krishna has already told us about the karma yogi, right? Shantim apnoti naishtikim. He tells us how. Sarva karmani, all his action, manasa sannyasa. From his man, he has given it sannyas. He has renounced all actions from his mind. And so, आस्ते सुखम वशी, एकदम सुख में वो बैठा हुआ है. कहाँ बैठा हुआ है? नवद्वारे पुरे देही. This deha of ours is called Navadware Pure. Pur means a city, right? Kolhapur, Nagpur, Udaipur, Jaipur. Pur means a city. Our body is called a city of 9 gates. 9 gates क्या हैं? 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 the anus, the genitals, 1 mouth. Right? That makes it 9. All the openings of the body. This is the reason the body is called Navadware Pure Dehi. The Atma is able to live happily in this 9 gates wala body, Naiva Kuryan na Karayan, without doing anything or causing anything to be done. A person who has controlled his senses completely, he's given up all actions, and so he rests happily in this body. He does not have any worries. He's not anxious. His mind is very calm. That is why Shantim apnoti naishtikim. He does not have false ego. His man, buddhi, ahankar are all living very peacefully because he has them under his control. By the mind, he has decided कि he does not want to be engaged in different kinds of फल की आसक्ति. Right? I will work, but I will only work for the pleasure of God, and I will only work for self-purification. So my sukh is in my vash. I am in charge of my happiness. So many times, right, we read these motivational lines which say, nobody else is responsible for your happiness. That's exactly what Krishna is telling us here in this verse. Sukham vashi. Your sukh is in your vash. Your happiness is under your control. The 9 openings of their body, right, they're working. They're seeing, they're hearing, they're eating, they're breathing, they're evacuating. All of them are doing their work. But the soul, the Jivatma, is living inside peacefully without getting entangled. The soul is like the Raja in the palace. He is doing nothing, and yet everything is happening. It's all on auto mode. Like you and me, we're all sitting here in this room attending this session, right? But our house is getting cleaned, khana ban raha hai, dishes are done, right? The clothes are washed, everything is being put away, right? We're sitting like Rajas over here while everything on auto mode, right? You've instructed somebody to take care of everything. Similarly, the soul is in pure consciousness. The soul sits focusing on what is important, and everything else is going on. So the karma yogis, they don't think of themselves as the body, right? They understand that they are spirit souls. And so all the bodily activities are happening. ऐसा नहीं कि मैं नहाऊंगी नहीं. ऐसा नहीं कि I'm going to be dirty. I'm not going to feed myself. All of that happens. But I'm not going to engage too much of mind power. I'm not going to give it too much of mental space. All of that is happening, and I'm not going to be too concerned about it. That way, I have sukh in my vash because I focus on what is most important. Right? I become a detached observer of everything that is happening around me. Sakshi bhav. Right? I start maintaining a very sakshi bhav. Verse 14, please. न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफल संयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते.
Embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
Wonderful. So in the previous verse we saw that the Atma, the Jivatma is not doing anything. Now very interesting part where the Paramatma inside is saying कि मैं भी कुछ नहीं करता. न कर्तृत्वम न कर्माणि lokasya srujati prabhuhu. The Prabhu inside our body is the Paramatma. And the Paramatma is now clearly saying कि न कर्तृत्वम न कर्माणि. I do not create any work for you, nor do I bind you in the results of work. Right? Na karma phala sanyogam. I am not making you get attached to karma phal. What is the reason that you get entangled? Svabhavastu pravartate. Because of your own svabhav, your own nature, because of your own characteristics, you create work and you create karma phal and you get entangled. Right? But obviously we tend to think कि यार सब तो बोलते हैं कि without God's permission, not a blade of grass moves. Correct? If we think that unless God sanctions something, how can I do any work? The way to understand this, Prabhupada says, is that a person commits a crime. Let's say a thief goes and robs a house. He gets caught and the judge punishes him, sends him to jail. That person thinks that the judge is responsible for my situation. The judge put me in jail. But is that the correct answer? No. The judge did not put you in jail. The judge is not your personal enemy. You yourself are responsible. You went and stole. Right? You have done this and you are reaping the fruits of your own action. You've created your own jail life. The judge is simply giving you your own results. You have done this, therefore you need to suffer. the judge is not responsible. Similarly, we need to understand that God is not responsible for any of the work that I do. God does not create my work. It is my nature by which I create work, and I create the results, and I suffer or I enjoy. Right? God simply gives me direction, and if I listen to Him, then He will tell me this is right and this is wrong. He is constantly watching out for me, but for that I need to be attentive. If I am simply swayed by my swabhav, there is nothing that God can do in this. In fact, the next verse is very, very important. Please repeat. Nadatte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukrutam vibhuhu ajnanena vritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavah.
Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
Okay. God is very clearly saying, I am not responsible for your pap or your punya. Okay, I do three things. As God, I give you the power to act. Right? I enable you. I've given you this body, I've given you intelligence, I've given you a particular type of senses, particular type of mind. So I give you the power to act. That's the first thing. Second, once you act based on the power that I've given you, I note your actions. And the third thing is, I give you the result of that action. So three things God does. Gives us the power to act. 2, notes our actions. And 3, gives us the result of our actions. As individual souls, we have complete freedom to perform good actions or bad actions. We have complete freedom to use our own free will the way we want it. And God is like the umpire in a cricket match. Right? We're all watching T20 just now. That umpire बेचारा is doing nothing. अगर प्लेयर ने 4 मारा तो वो बोलेगा 4 runs. अगर बैट्समैन ने 6 मारा, he'll say 6 runs. If the bowler throws a no ball, he'll say no ball. If there is a wicket, he'll say out. Right? The umpire cannot be blamed for the decision. It all depends on how the player played. Correct? That's exactly what Krishna is saying. Ki I am simply the umpire. I am not responsible for your pap or your punya. You, because of your own ignorance, you, because of your getting stuck in the material world, are creating activities. I have given you a manual to work in this material world. I have given you the scriptures. Right? If you decide to be in ignorance, that's up to you. If you want to act whimsically, then you alone are responsible for your actions. I have no part to play in this. Right? The Jeev, that is the soul, the Atma, is conscious. It is active and it has free will. Every action that we perform because of our own free will. And based on the action that we perform on using our free will, we get pap or punya. So we cannot blame God for this. Right? So very interesting. First, Atma says, I don't create any work. God says, I am not responsible. It is your Swabhav which is responsible. But Swabhav is inert. Right? We need to understand the relationship between Jivatma, God and Prakriti. How does action actually happen? In the 3rd chapter, we've already studied this. Right? We took the example of that little boy who enters the gym and has a desire to pick up weights. You remember that? Does anyone remember that example? Did I do that here or no?
Yes. If the son, the father picks this one and...
Correct. The others, have you heard that example? Okay, I'm going to quickly repeat it. Yeah, Shubhangi, you heard it? Yes, right? So, a little boy has come into the gym. The father is picking up weights and the little boy shows a desire that he wants to pick up weights. Right? the father puts his hands under the boy's hand and picks up the weight. So who actually has lifted the weights? Is it the boy? Is it the father? Or is it something else?
Father.
It's the father? Everyone agrees it's the father who lifted the weights?
Boy lifts.
The boy's wish lifted the weight? What is the other answer?
It's the boy's will.
The boy's will? Anything else that has played a role?
Father's support and boy's will.
We still have only two things. Father's support, boy's will. What else do you think is playing a role?
Energy and say the father is given by the nature.
Yeah, the father put his energy in there. ठीक है. Okay, everyone needs to revise their third chapter. Please remember, for every action to happen, there is this triangle, right? I just said there is the super soul, there is Jivatma, and there is Prakriti. In the third chapter, we did Ahankara Vimudhatma Karta Ahamiti Manyate. The Jeev, because of Ahankar, thinks that I am doing everything. Think of this little child. If he was in school, if he was on the playground, if he was somewhere else, would he have wanted to pick up dumbbells? No. He entered the gym. Prakriti, the environment of the gym, everybody was lifting weights. His father was lifting weights. People were exercising. Therefore, because of the environment, he got a desire to pick up weights. Right? So, desire is bacche ka, lekin it was because he was in that environment. And because his father okayed it, his father said, अच्छा चलो बच्चे के मन में आया weights उठाने के लिए, his father sanctioned his desire. So father put his hands under the बच्चे का hand and picked it up. So is Prakriti alone the doer? Would only the gym, the presence of the gym, have had the dumbbells being raised? No. The child alone, could he have picked up the dumbbells? No. If the child had not asked for it to be done, would the father alone have done it? No. Right? So we always need to realize that our actions, right, have so many other doers, so many other things that actually instigate us. Verses 13, 14 and 15, when put together, will help us understand the relationship between Ishwar, Jeev and Prakriti. And don't ever forget this. Therefore, it is important to be careful of the environment that we expose ourselves to. Right? If you think you can hang out with a bunch of friends who are smoking all day and think you will be a non-smoker, it is very, very hard. You're fighting against Prakriti. You're fighting against that nature. If you're in a house of hardcore meat eaters, right, and you're cooking and cleaning and serving all day long, and if you think I'm going to stay vegetarian, it's possible, but it's a very uphill task. It is very, very hard. It's easier when you're in an environment where everyone is a vegetarian. It's easier when you're in an environment where everyone is non-smoking. Right? So we should be a little more careful about the Prakriti, the environment that we pick for ourselves. Therefore, devotees actually go on yatras. When you go away on a yatra, you completely cut yourself off from your home environment. Your home may have the best environment possible, right? But I'm sure Reshma will tell us this. Your home can give you complete peace. But what you get going to Coimbatore and, doing in that ashram, you cannot do at home, right? Because that whole environment supports it. That whole environment elevates you. Everybody around you is pushing you to get to greater heights. Right? When you go to a yatra, 10,000 devotees went to Radhanath Swami Maharaj's Kartik Yatra last year. Everyone's waking up at 4. Right? In my normal life, I think waking up at 6 is so early. But when you go for a yatra, you feel so guilty when you wake up at 6 o'clock. Because everyone is up at 4 o'clock and everyone is chanting. At 6 o'clock, everyone is done with 16 rounds. Everyone is bathed. Everyone's put beautiful tilak. Everyone's, attending katha, discussing Bhagavatam, chanting extra rounds. So the whole environment facilitates it. You don't have to think कि ये मैं खा सकती हूँ, मैं नहीं खा सकती हूँ. Right? Everything is sattvic khana. So the whole environment pushes you forward on your spiritual journey. Therefore, therefore devotees are told to go on a yatra. Full day you're listening to beautiful katha. You don't have any ghar ka jhanjat to deal with. Na bacche ka school, na husband ka office, na nothing, right? All of that is taken care of. You don't have to worry about how do I dress, where am I going, nothing. Everyone's wearing saris or, whatever, Sattvic dress code. Nobody cares about what you're wearing. Everyone's so clean and so proper. So the environment plays a huge role in our lives. And in that environment, your Jivka desires are also going to be very positive. If I'm in a yatra, I'm never going to crave for, for meat or for cigarettes or for alcohol or for, Hindi movies or for some Bollywood songs. I'm not going to crave for that, right? So my environment plays a huge role here. While the responsibility for action is finally on me, Prakriti instigates, right? So I have to constantly try and protect myself. I should put myself in Prakriti, which will actually facilitate my action. As a Jivatma, I am completely responsible for my action. So what I should do is, I should be a little more finicky when I'm choosing my Prakriti, when I'm choosing my environment, right? Because Prakriti can instigate and Prakriti can also facilitate. If I'm in a pub, it's very easy that I ask for a drink and I get a drink. Prakriti ne instigate kiya, Prakriti ne facilitate kar diya. Right? If I go to the temple, it's so easy for me to want to chant one round at least sitting in front of the deities. I just sit there. Nobody will come and disturb me. Right? That environment instigates me to chant. And that environment facilitates my chanting. So ultimately, as a Jivatma, it is my choice as to where am I going to place myself. How am I going to use my free will. Right? So Prakriti has tremendous potential and the Jeev is superbly strong. The Jeev has to finally choose whether I should act or not act. And if I act, should I act in Rajogun, Tamogun or Satogun? The choice is always ours. And therefore Krishna is saying, you and you alone are responsible for your pap and your punya. Clear? Okay, one more verse please. Yeah, we'll do 16. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham aditya vajnanam prakashayati tatparam.
When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which science is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime.
Again, this verse rounds it all up and brings us back to the point of how important it is for us to get knowledge. Getting spiritual knowledge is the only way out of ignorance. What is our ignorance? I am this body, I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. Right? I have all these thoughts because I am ignorant. As soon as I get transcendental knowledge, what happens? I realize, I begin to understand I am not this body. I am not the doer. Right? So we begin to understand our relationship with God. We begin to understand our true spiritual identity. And what is my true spiritual identity? I am a tiny part of that Supreme Lord. Kitna bhi tiny ho, I am eternally His. And so eternally, I want to be in His service. So this verse tells us, spiritual knowledge, tesham aditya vajnanam. Like Aditya, like the sun. As soon as the sun comes out, can darkness stay? No. Right? So spiritual knowledge is like the sun. Sun comes out, all darkness goes away. Once we get spiritual knowledge, everything is revealed. We will not be in ignorance. Because of the darkness of ignorance, we think we are the body, we are the doers, my karma, so my karma fal. But when the light of God's knowledge shines, then we wake up to our true spiritual identity, our true swarup. Very nice line. Jivera swarup hai Krishnera Nitya Das. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has written this. A jeev ka, as an atma, our Nitya swarup, right? Our permanent swarup, our permanent form, our permanent duty is to be Krishnera Nitya Das, constantly engaged in Krishna's service. And once we understand this, then even when we are living in this city of 9 gates, in this body, we can always be fully Krishna conscious. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you all for joining. Please go through these verses. They are very, very, very repetitive. Okay? Repetitive because they're so important. This knowledge is going to help us purify ourselves. This knowledge is going to keep telling us constantly how we are responsible for our actions and how we should consciously make a choice to be engaged in service without any attachment. It's very easy ki yaar, I'm in this body, so these are my bodily duties. It's very easy to go down that path. जी अब मैं क्या करूँ ना, एनवायरमेंट ही ऐसा था, घर में सब लोग ऐसे ही हैं. But to take responsibility and do what is right is what is most important. Okay? So do we have any questions? No? Krishna Mukherjee, you have a question?
Yeah. So, Varsha, thank you.
Thank you.
For this session. It's like, I really love your sessions. So, I just want to ask you, like you said no, that we have Paramatma's ansh only, no? A very tiny part of that Paramatma.
Correct.
Then we should be having these qualities. No?
Of course
the
we do.
Atma should have these qualities. Then, like, whom God is giving the free will? To the Atma?
We have all his qualities. You're very right, Krishna.
So why do we do? Any pap karma?
We do pap karma because of our own free will. I think last time when I sunnaud this, no, we are living very happily with Krishna, right? We are very, very content living up over there.
Yeah, I remember.
Right?
Then he sends us. Yeah, like
he doesn't send us. We want to go. Right? Now, I live in a beautiful house, right? My children are living very happily with me. But there does come a point where everyone wants to discover themselves, right? And I think it is important because blind surrender is one thing and surrendering with knowledge is a very different thing. So, our children go out, right? My children live in Bombay. Horrible chota ghar, ganda sa traffic, no gaadi ghoda, nobody driving them around, taking public transport, right? So many times I think back, yaar kya kar rahe hain bacche? Itne sukh mein ghar mein reh sakte hain. Lekin those experiences actually purify them. Actually make them realize with understanding कि उनके पास कितना है already available and to develop gratitude for what they have. To become purified, to become more aware, to become more grateful and then come back home. That coming back home is more meaningful. And along that journey, even if we are inherently with all qualities that God has, right? Along the journey, because we've taken this human form, we tend to walk the wrong path, learn, come back. Again, make a mistake, learn, come back. And this learning is what makes us purified to go back to God. हम क्यों पाप करते हैं? Because of these anarthas that we have. Kama, Krodha, Moha. All of this is part of the material energy. As soon as you enter the material world, you get caught by material energy. In the second chapter, there's a verse which says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agama apaino anityas tam stitikshasva bharata. As soon as you enter this material world, right, this Devi Maya, this Maya, who's God's energy, she captures you. And now she wants to make sure that unless you're completely purified, I'm not going to send you back to God. To purify you, she gives you all kinds of klesh. Adhyatmik klesh, Adhidaivik klesh, Adhibhautik klesh. Right? Troubles from your own body, troubles from people around you, trouble from the devatas. All these. And how you learn and purify yourself while you're trying to come out of this klesh makes you a better person. Right? Because of Maya, we have all these bindings on us, right? I feel lust, I feel anger, I feel greed, I feel envy. But it is up to me to now remove all these coverings and go back to God as that pious soul. See, so long as the child is staying with the parent, the child does not have a monthly budget to live under. As soon as they go away from home, you say, "Acha bacha, this is your monthly budget. Ab isme tum nibhao." Right? The kid has to learn to steer along, has to learn ki kya sahi hai, main kaise manage karu. All these learnings make him a better adult. So once you go away in that environment, the environment is going to give you bahut sare jute. But that jute, it's like being put in prison. Prison is not just punishment actually. Prison is for your reformation, reform. Tum अच्छे होके बाहर आओ. You're put in prison, right? Not to just be whipped and lashed. The whole purpose of putting you in a prison is you're currently unfit for civil society. Please go there. Please figure out what you've done wrong. Please become a better person. Once you're a better person, then you can come out again. So because we are in this Mayavadi world, we are in that prison. We are here so that we can reform. Right? Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Thank you all for joining.